just kicked off. You had your groundbreaking here, I guess 2 weeks ago now. I wasn't here. And we since then got our final guaranteed maximum price, which is part of the structure of this project. And that came in under what we anticipated by about $150,000. So that's given us a little flexibility at the moment. We had quite a list of alternates that built up on this project, and we were able then to accept all of them. So we're getting off on a great foot with that project, with the exception of one item, and that is some asbestos that was found in very small quantities in some sealant on the outside tees and on some drywall mud on the inside. So that's getting mitigated right now. And that's created a schedule delay, but we don't really believe that it's going to create an issue with the final completion date in this coming January. So we're just going to be delayed a little bit with some of the work. However, while this is being abated outside starting Monday, we will start putting in the ram aggregate piers. These are the concrete pylons that will go in the ground to establish the foundation of the addition. So we're doing well there, and I'll keep you updated as we roll along.
Mr. Chairman, Rick, as you know, the board took a tour of the Crossroads building before our meeting this morning, and I would like to joyful and meaningful space on this campus. So I want to publicly compliment you and your team and their efforts for putting all that together.
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Little, thank you for sharing that.
On your vision and building your team to make sure that space is getting built. So
see that project into fruition, that has made it special, I think. But thank you.
Excellent.
Mr. Chair, before Vice President Johnson, please, at our F&F meeting, we were told that you're currently preparing the application for the residence hall project. Is there anything new to present to us as to how that's moving along?
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Erickson, yeah, there's some new information. Let me hit the highlights. There's still a little more to learn, which I'll be learning Friday. We received our application packet. It will require a board resolution included with the packet when we submit it. And it calls out that it has to be our governing board creating that resolution. So we'll need your help with that. At this point, I'm anticipating we'll file our application July 2nd. I'm not absolutely certain of that until I have a meeting on Friday. I'm going up to meet with the folks, and I've got a long list of questions to go through. And I may learn there that I can submit our application later, which might be beneficial to us if we can not have to do it so quickly. The SLIB board will review all the applications and render their decisions, I believe, at the October SLIB board meeting. And there's a window of time that has to occur before that meeting, which is why this early July submission window. So I'll get that clarity on Friday. I did yesterday morning reach out for some clarity on how the interest was going to be calculated, and the information I got was different than what I initially got. The good news is I now have clarity. The bad news is it's different in a more challenging way. But Joe and I spent some time today working on it, trying to figure out what our options may be, and we'll be working on that the rest of the week. So we're still planning on submitting this application and figuring this thing out and letting this thing go. So those are kind of the highlights.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
What we will likely propose, we just need to figure out the logistics, is that you hold a special board meeting probably towards the end of next week. It could be via conference call, and And just to pass that resolution, I've been in communication with Tara. She's agreed to draft the resolution. The rules are pretty straightforward, and the resolution is essentially covering things. We've approved this project. We agreed to maintain it and some other aspects of it that need to be stated formally by the board. The only reason I say I'm not sure about when next week is really want to let the meeting that Rick's going to have with the staff there at the State Lands Investment Office to see if truly July 2nd is when we need to get it in. There's a, per rule, there's a required 90-day period that they have to review it, and that's why we're pushed into July to try to get something in so we can meet their October deadline. So Trustee Ketchum, to your point, we should have a draft for you and likely have to hold a special board meeting, a very brief one likely. But let's see how the meeting goes and we get a little more clarity on the information and know for sure that we've got to meet that July 2nd deadline.
Any questions?
July 2nd deadline.
Team charters, which really sets the tone and the content of what their work will be in the next couple of years. So they're nearing that culmination. They have also their timelines built so that we'll be able to build a full timeline for the full project soon. All that is due on Monday. And so they've been working closely with their project coordinators, Chad Marley, Julie Gershner, and Janet Webb, who are kind of the experts in the room in terms of putting these charters together and the timelines and working through the project management elements of what they're doing. So we have had one co-lead of a group transition now. Today was the last day that we had Crystal Smith with us. She's our career services person and very much the brains behind a lot of what we've made progress with in terms of career services and in job exploration and career exploration for our students. So we'll be in an active search to fill that position soon. And to replace her on the Essential Experiences team is Zeke Sorensen. So we were welcoming him to that leadership position and think he'll do very well with Jill Kozlowski as partner for that. So that's where we are, and we'll be looking forward to then having the teams really dig into their work soon.
Emphasizing that this is an institute, you're working here. So we would spend a lot of time talking about those things. Also, did I talk about the sprint at the last one? I did? Okay, good. We weren't sure whether I hit it or not. So, yep. Any questions from the three of us? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
For my report, I actually also wasn't a long walk, and it sounds like he was ready to get out of there, so happy to do that. So Judy suggested, and I agreed, it was a great idea to have Clark come.
to continue the success that they've had. So I appreciate the being here and everything that you do for the support of athletics.
Better tell him a little bit about yourself, where you came from.
So I was born and raised in Boise, Idaho. I'm married with 4 kids, and they should be here next week here for Sports Institute. And then, yeah, that's the important part. So. Yeah.
Is this your first time? Have you lived in Cheyenne?
This is my first time in Cheyenne. Yep. So I've been in Idaho born and raised in Boise, and then I transitioned into at the College of Southern Idaho in the athletic department and kind of developed that way, and then moved over here.
What led you to want to come to Cheyenne?
So long story short, when you brought women's basketball on, then we had an assistant coach who was interested in the position, and that opened my eyes to Laramie County Community College. And so since then, men's basketball played in Twin, and so I was able to see men's basketball, and the paths just kept crossing. And then when the position, I knew when Scott went to Western New Mexico that the position would open up, and so I applied.
Very good.
Yeah.
You know, you appointed 2 trustees to a committee that helped us go through a comprehensive RFP and review process for the boards and the college's legal services. Trustee Ketchum and Trustee Soto helped us with that effort. Went through and entertained proposals, scored, discussed, and debated. And long story short, Woodhouse Road and Nethercott rose to the top quite easily. And so we have executed, I believe it's executed, a contract with with Woodhouse Road and Nethercott. And so I just wanted to bring that closure to the board to say you do have legal services now for another 3 years with an option to renew for 2 single years as we have in the past. So thank you, Tara, for the great application, and looking forward to your continued service.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to continue to serve. I really value this particular service, and I hope to continue to see the college move forward. So thank you.
And then, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, our registrar, Stacy Mass, has put together a nice summary just that sort of encapsulated end of semester numbers for 2018. And you have that in your materials. It's a comprehensive memo, but she offered, and so I took her up on it to come tonight and just touch on the highlights, because I think there's some good stuff in there, as well as some things we need to continue.
Credentials awarded for the spring semester to 439 students. That is up significantly this spring compared to last spring. Some of the other highlight numbers, we had 300 students on the president's honor roll, 168 students on the vice president's honor roll. Our probation and suspension numbers continue to slowly decrease, which leads us to believe that, you know, our advisors and our faculty and everybody are working together to help our students and provide that support that they need. One of the most interesting numbers, and I just started tracking this last fall in looking at my reports and tracking students who were actually suspended, appealed their suspension, and we gave them a probationary semester, were actually able to be put back into good standing and not go back into suspension. And so we had that happen again this spring. There were 8 students who were actually suspended in the fall, at the end of the fall semester for spring. They appealed, we approved their suspension appeal, put them back on a probationary semester, and then they were academically successful enough to get their GPA above a 2.0. So those are small wins that we are making for our students and our advisors. So I thought that was pretty important to share. 806 official transcripts were sent out of my office between May 11th and June 14th. The majority of those are sent electronically, but that speaks to the support we have through IT and using the National Student Clearinghouse. So that allows us the ability to send those almost within 24 hours, and through exchanges to other institutions. It helps our students who go to the State Board of Nursing to get their transcripts there for their licensure much faster. And students can track it. So it's really easy. They know when their transcript's been received here, are the request, when we've sent it, and when the recipients received it. So those are little benefits to that service. On the back page of the memo that I provided for Dr. Schaefer, you can see our total credentials awarded with both just the numbers and then the graph. And you can see the range for the last 4 fiscal years. So this year we are at a total, and keep in mind we have a leading summer for graduation for graduates. So it's last summer and then fall and then the spring. We're at 810 for this fiscal year. So we're only down 1 from FY16, still down a little bit from FY15, but I think that we will soon see that potential and that number going back up. And we're just starting to see too where students are starting to really benefit from the big program changes that we made in 2015 by reducing the credit counts in the programs and the articulation agreements. And so I think we're starting to see those benefits here. And then in a couple of years when the university is able to realize those numbers, we'll have more of that information. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you.
Any questions?
Thanks, Stacy. And Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that we knew were sort of in the mix, and we said, hey, we want to help these students finish. There was a big push. We got them through. The next year we went to 811. Then, of course, last year went down to 729. But what's exciting about this year, when you put it into context, we implemented most of our programmatic changes and a lot of our structure changes really in the fall of 15, when you look at it. And what's interesting is, while enrollment has essentially flattened, we were on a downhill curve on there. So our enrollments are lower I think I have this right, Stacy, so tell me if I don't, this year than they were in 15 and 16 when we saw those bumper crop of graduates. But what's impressive is our numbers are going back up. And that's just one indication to suggest that we're actually getting more of the students, even though we have fewer of them than we did those years, to actually complete their program, which is really the whole focus of our student success efforts and our pathways efforts. So what we're hoping, and we'll see, I guess, next year, but we're hoping that this is just sort of that summative outcome of that work as it clicks along. And as we see our efforts progress, those numbers to continue to increase. And then when enrollment increases, we should see that exponential effect as well. So it was really, really positive to see. And I think for the campus, reaffirming to see student success numbers moving the direction they were after all the work we've been putting in for the last few years.
Yeah.
All right, I'll keep moving through a couple of these things. So call it serendipity, or the fact that we live in a very small world. At the request of the president of the College of Southern Idaho, where Clark came from, Dr. Fox asked the Wyoming presidents to convene and meet with the presidents of the Scenic West Athletic Conference. So Region 18, do I have that correct? Utah, Idaho, Nevada, and the folks over there, they have been struggling because of long roads, few institutions that offer athletics to actually put together competitive play and be competitive as a region. We've lost College of Northern Idaho in that mix. And so the numbers of institutions that they've been able to actually engage in competitive play with has been a challenge. And the travel requirements for their athletes have been taking them out of the classroom far more than they wanted to do. And so they essentially said, can we get together and talk and see if we can find a way to collaborate and help with some of those issues? Early on, there was some fear and conversation about redistricting. I think we're beyond that at this point. But we had a real good conversation with presidents in Rock Springs from Region 18 and Region 9. And one of the things we left there with was sort of a joint resolution or a commitment to saying we've got to find ways to collaborate so that we can reduce the amount of time students have to be out of the classroom, increase competitive play, benefit our communities as well as the communities in Region 18. And the general concept that I think we're moving towards is establishing basically interregion MOUs, or more formalizing, I guess would be a better word, because we do some of this now, where our teams would essentially share venues or find neutral venues so that we could actually create competitive play to fill out schedules and to mitigate some of the issues that Region 18 was struggling with. So overall, I think it was a good outcome and may actually end up providing some better opportunities for our students to play very competitive teams such as Salt Lake Community College and CSI, which we hope will help us be more competitive when we go to the national tournaments. And so it was a very good meeting. I'll keep you apprised as those things develop. I did get to meet the athletic director at CSI, Clark's former boss, so I have all the dirt on him. Should he get a little squirrely with us. Yes. Yeah, the bad Clark, good Clark. We'll figure it out. But it's interesting what a small world it really is when you talk community colleges. So so exciting. I think that was good and probably certainly more beneficial for the Scenic West Athletic Conference than Region 9. But I know that if we were in the same situation and struggling with those schedules, we'd be leaning on our partners in other regions to do the very same thing. And so who knows, look forward. Maybe we'll have some tournaments that will be in Wyoming that bring some great teams here and some opportunities for our students as well. Mr. Chairman, these next three, I'm just going to hit real quickly. I know that some of the trustees will have comments on these things as well. Basically, the end of May through early June, lots going on in terms of statewide conversations. On May 31st, participated in a Complete College America, Complete College Wyoming retreat, I guess I would be. Trustee Zalazar was there, at least in type font on the Zoom screen, and participated. And it was a fair meeting for us to reaffirm and sort of see where Complete College America was at and how we were progressing on our completion goals and agenda and brainstorming how we might move forward with that. So nothing earth-shattering, I don't think. Trustee Zalazar can fill in if I miss anything, and I know Vice President Hay and other folks were there. Then a week later, we were up in Powell, as some of you know, for the Community College Commission retreat. That retreat was specifically on the topic of setting tuition policy. They made a step forward, I think, in that direction. The new executive director, Dr. Sandy Caldwell, is working to establish some teams that will be working loosely on tuition policy, it looks like, as well as some other things. And so it was started off as a slow conversation. With the help of Commissioner Brown, we've got some momentum moving, and they at least established some philosophical or policy perspectives that are critical for setting tuition policy. I guess the proof will be in the pudding, and we'll see how that progresses as we move forward. And then after that, we had a meeting with the University of Wyoming President, Dr. Lori Nichols, a continuation of what she calls our President Summits. And it was an opportunity for us to come together. The primary topic at that meeting was whether or not we would endorse or encourage the establishment of a statewide strategic plan for higher education that would help us focus the many interests and ideas that people have right now for what we should be doing to close the higher education attainment gap and meet the governor and NDOW's attainment goal for the state. I believe we'll be working with the governor's office specifically to seek his support in convening or actually formalizing a group that would be charged with doing strategic planning for higher education, specifically focused on things the state needs to do to help us close that attainment gap. And as you recall, the goal upped by NDOW and the governor is to have 67% of our working adults with some type of meaningful post-secondary credential by 2025. So it is a significant lift. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm sure I'm missing something, but in the essence of time, I will stop there. Happy to answer any questions, but otherwise that concludes my president's report.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Joe, when President Nichols was talking with you about, doing that joint strategic plan thing, that the strategy planning that you were talking about for higher education goal completion, do you think that's a positive thing? Did all of the community college presidents agree with her? What was the outcome of that discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Little, did they all agree? I don't know if we ever all agree on anything very easily. Conceptually, I think there's general support. So here's the basis for that guidance. As we've sort of watched these different initiatives, Complete College Wyoming, NDOW with their emphasis, part of now this WICHE Lumina task force on higher ed attainment. If you recall, last session, so 2 sessions ago, legislative session, we submitted a joint report, essentially, and plan from the community colleges and UW submitted on our behalf based on the legislation, specifically about the things we needed to do to increase college going, to recruit more students, both in state and out of state. So what I'm suggesting is that there are a variety of different things happening around higher education attainment with different groups that are trying to take on and tackle different strategies. There is no consensus or coherence for the state in terms of what's most important right now and where are we thinking we're going to get the biggest bang for our buck. And that's really where the concept of establishing a statewide plan first before we start talking about which groups are going to do what type of things, it will be critical. So I think there's general consensus that we need that roadmap and at least that agreement on what are the things we're going to do. And it'll also provide an opportunity for the university, for the community colleges, for Complete College America, for NDOW, for K-12, and for others to sort of say, okay, this is where we're going. Let's make sure that our efforts fit within that direction. So, we'll see as we get moving with that, but that's the general concept is we need to bring all these disparate parts together and really have a focused agenda for Wyoming.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, talk about, I just saw this on Instagram the other day, but something 25 and older.
Oh, yeah, I knew I was forgetting something. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, very exciting. So as you recall, I shared with you in the past some concept conversations that have actually led to proposals in our work with the Elbogen Foundation, specifically around a program that we've titled Rediscover LCCC. So take my previous comments that there's all this focus on higher education attainment. Some of you remember the information that the community college has shared with NDOW in regards of how we might meet that attainment goal. And one of the target populations we knew we had to engage in re-engage was the adult population. There's been a lot of conversation in the state about a need-based financial aid program or scholarship similar to the Hathaway. So essentially what we did is try to get ahead of that conversation and actually get something going. So working with the Elbogen Foundation, we drafted that concept paper that I shared with all of you for the Rediscover LCCC program. As I think I reported, they funded that to the tune of $600,000 for the next 3 years, so $200,000 a year. The LCCC Foundation is kicking in $200,000. So we have $800,000 to essentially pilot, if you will, a demonstration project around need-based adult-focused financial aid. And that is the Rediscover LCCC Scholarship Program. That went live, Lisa, essentially Monday, correct? Yes. So a collaborative effort that will allow us to do this. There's really the primary purpose of this is for us to set the stage and provide some data and an actual example of how an adult-focused need-based aid program would work for the state of Wyoming. So we've launched it. We'll essentially be able to carry this for 3 years. Starting fall, we have a max of 80 students can come into this program. They have to be 25 or older, have lived in Wyoming for at least 3 years. The criteria that were in that sheet choose very specific programs. So we'll not only be able to start whittling away at that attainment goal component, but our hope is that when we get to at least the next budget session, we'll have some solid data and a good model to bring forward to the legislature. I think our long-term goal is that we'll have the Hathaway, a merit-based high school graduate-focused scholarship program, and some type of Rediscover Wyoming program that will be a need-based adult-focused higher education scholarship. So that's kind of the goal. And yeah, you're right. It's getting lit up on social media, and I guess it's getting some great traction and it just went out on Monday. So very, very exciting, and hope that it gets the legs that we hope it does.
That is exciting.
Yes.
I've had quite a few people ask me about it. So.
Good.
Wow.
Well, 2 days at a demonstration for the state on how we could do this and scale it so that it impacts all across Wyoming. Thank you for reminding me.
Any other questions? All right, on to board reports. Trustee Erickson, Trustee Salazar.
About the Elks Club. Was that Elks Club or what is it?
It was an Elks Club.
Elks
Yeah.
Club, okay.
Quid pro quo. You know.
Yeah, and we were still looking for an ice cream shop along the way. We didn't find it, but we did find a bar. I shouldn't probably be saying that. But then at the groundbreaking over here the other day for the new facility, John Clay also told me he's looking for us at that same ice cream shop. So I told him we found a bar, and he said, okay, that sounds like a better deal.
Who drove after that?
Well, we had plenty of time, so.
We were in town.
We were in town. All right, but here's kind of some synopsis of what was happening, and some of, I think the important thing is that the WAC board is looking at 2018-19 budget, and they're including monies to rework the WAC logo and also to make the WAC website more interactive and produce a trustee orientation video. Kind of an important thing. The Northwestern College is the host for the WAC Awards and legislative reception next year, and the date is February 7th, 2019. Now it's here, right? It's always here, but they're the host. And then probably President Schaefer, Don will talk about the 4 committees, the Wyoming Community College Commission, but the WAC board is going to try and get a trustee on each of the 4 committees that you'll probably talk about. And it's to pursue the tuition cap policy work. So there's going to be some opportunities there. And then finally, I'm skipping over a few things, but I may come back if I need to be. The WAC will have Dr. Leach with Western Wyoming Community College present her interpretation of the new normal as presented at the ACCTT. We're shooting for October unless something changed the call that happened this morning. Okay, so that's it.
Excellent review. I knew you could do a very good job. Thank you. There's nothing that I need to add. Other than the fact he has one of these cars that goes without him having his hands on the steering wheel. It's almost an automatic car. And if you're a passenger, would you think you might be frightened? I was frightened. I was putting my foot down, brake, where's the brake? Because with that type of a vehicle, it senses how far you are away from an vehicle and stops in a different pattern than what you're individually accustomed to. But it was quite an experience going in his car. And he has now got a nickname. He's our tech guru. He likes that, I think. His wife calls him tech nerd, but I like guru. Is that all right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
fine.
So may I ask a question? Did they have the retirement party for Jim Rose up there?
I'm going to speak about that.
Well, perfect.
Okay, that's next.
I just wanted to ask.
Okay, that's a good entry. Thank you. So we also attended the Wyoming Community College Commission meeting, which was held there in Powell, and essentially the retreat was the meeting. They had their normal activities that they did on a quarterly basis, but the retreat, I don't think the retreat would have gone anywhere if it hadn't been for two individuals. One, our president, who Joe presented a white paper representing the president's views of how to move forward with this tuition policy. And it led the way to some good discussion. Fortunately, they needed a facilitator, and one of the commissioners, Commissioner Brown, stood up and said, I think I'm going to start putting this stuff down on a blackboard so that we could then see what we have accomplished here and where there are some commonalities and so forth. So bottom line, I was very proud of our president because he took the time over a weekend to put together a paper that he then submitted to his fellow presidents, who in turn had the opportunity to say yay or nay. And I think one of your comments was, but the silence must mean that they're for it. And so the paper went forward. But if that paper hadn't been there, there would have been a lot of extraneous type of discussion. It was right on a beam. And they were talking about accessibility, affordability, the various importance of things that we want to keep the tuition down to a minimum, and it's very important to look at affordability. But there are 4 committees. Right now, I can't remember the names of all the committees. He's the recorder. He takes down everything. He's got good recordings. Do you have that there?
I do somewhere. I'll find it. Just keep talking.
But as Trustee Salazar pointed out, trustees across the state will have an opportunity to serve on these 4 committees. And I believe they're going to have a timeline of giving reports back to the next meeting of the commission, which will be in October. I have not received any word of the progress from the new executive director, Sandy Caldwell. She's probably trying to get her feet wet on everything that she's doing. Now, coming back to Jim Rose, Dr. Jim Rose, he retired from being the executive director for the Wyoming Community College Commission, and he had a lovely send-off. The president of Northwest, Stephanie Hicksa, she opened up her house and had a nice little reception for Dr. Rose. Some nice gifts were presented to him by the presidents and also by the commissioners, and also from WAC. Dr. Rose is a very humble man. He doesn't like to, if he doesn't like to have attention, he got a lot of attention. You could see that he was feeling a little bit uncomfortable with the attention. But it was a nice gathering, a good send-off for Dr. Rose. He's moved to Fort Collins. He hopes to do a number of things that he's been able to do over the last few years. So, you have anything you want to add?
They did come with a policy statement, and I think Dr. Schaefer's white paper was instrumental in that policy statement. And I think I don't want to necessarily read it, but it did talk about tuition philosophy of the Community College Commission, and but some key points there were actually straight from Dr. Schaefer's white paper, like students share the cost of education, tuition revenue is an essential resource of quality education, tuition should be nearly as free as possible, and tuition can be used to achieve strategic goals. That was some of the key items from that policy statement. And then I talk about the committees, just in case.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, so the 4 committees that they set up, one was a scholarship, strategic scholarship, and that's related to endow in some fashion. Second was, those are the charters of committees, the strategic scholarship, incentive dollars for workforce innovation, affordability and access, and then the fourth one, retention and completion attainment, and student success. So those are the 4 committees that they're looking at.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Are those four committees talking about the tuition policy or 4 committees just of WACT in general?
No, relative to that tuition.
Okay.
Okay,
thanks.
it's not WAC. It's the Wyoming Community College Commission.
Oh, yes, got it.
And as you
Okay.
recall in our previous discussions, there's been a concern as to, okay, what should we do with the tuition cap? Should we get rid of the tuition cap of, okay, after 12 credits, the additional credits, there's no additional cost? So there's been a debate going on in the commission as to whether to have a cap, not have a cap. In fact, at the meeting in February, they postponed the removal of the cap from this fall to next fall.
Mhm.
So that it's their continuing struggle as to what, as Dr. Schaefer would say, is what is their main philosophy and their overall strategy for tuition in the state of Wyoming,
Mhm.
and how that's going to develop over the next 4 years
Okay.
or so.
And those committees are part
Those
of
are,
that discussion?
those are 4
Okay.
committees that are going to be leading information to making those decisions.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. And the Facilities and Finance Committee, Trustee Erickson, Trustee Ketchum.
Well, it's interesting. We have a lot of what we talked about already discussed, and that happens. Our agenda at the F&F committee always includes the Building Forward update, which Vice President Johnson gave the committee, the board here, a very good review. We had a presentation by Bill Sink. He's our plant engineer and director. And he reviewed for us the differences between major maintenance and small maintenance budgets. Major maintenance is financed by state funding. We get a biennial amount of money. I think this current biennium, it's 4.6 million. I maybe, is it 4.6? Right on with that. And the thing that makes the state interested in our maintenance problems, if it's a safety issue or an ADA type of issue, those become major maintenance projects. In our budget, our fiscal 19 budget, in the appendix, you'll see a listing of all the major maintenance projects and also the minor maintenance projects. So we had a nice opportunity to review all of those. Then we did discuss a little bit about the residence hall. We brought, Vice President Johnson brought us up to date on that. The Finance and Facilities Committee serves as the audit committee for the board. And so Wayne Hearn from our accountants came over and gave an intro as to, they're coming over and they're going to be doing the intro. So we'll be hearing more from Wayne. In regard to the procurement and contracting report, I do have a couple observations to make on that. Wherever I put it. Here we go. This is a report we get every month that has the board approved items, the various solicitation requests, potential solicitations of 60,000 that are not in the current budget, and executed contracts. The number of executed contracts, if I had a chance to review this particular document, there are quite a few of them in the past month. And that's just the timing, the way things come. Under the potential solicitation, table 3, we have the enrollment software, which is for the student experience and predictive analytic package. A couple of meetings back, Chad was here, the IT people were here talking about, okay, with all the work that's going on with pathways and other interactions through the state with the other community colleges, they're looking at the software that's going to be beneficial for our student experiences and analytic activities. And you'll see that the funding on that is to be determined. I asked the question, to be determined, why? why don't we have more information on that? Well, the answer to that is we don't know exactly how much it's going to be, because it depends on how many of the colleges come in and go with the system, and whether we use one system or another system. So that's somewhat open-ended. So that was a satisfactory answer for me. Hopefully it's satisfactory for the board as well. Then we, as we normally do, we review the financials for the past month. And given that, I would make a motion that we accept the May 31 procurement and contracting report, and also the financial reports.
I'll second. It's been moved by trustee Erickson, seconded by trustee Ketchum. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And our next meeting will be July 11 for the FNF.
Thank you, trustee Erickson. Okay, on to some approval items. We have several before us. And we have several staff recommendations. So the 1 mil levy recommendation. Up first.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, you have the presentation on the 1 mil during the public hearing, and so you have a staff recommendation before you.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of the continuation of the 1 mil levy authorized by Wyoming Statute 21-18-303 little b for an additional 2-year period beginning July 1st, 2018 and ending July 30th, 2020.
A second.
June 30.
June 30, 2020.
It's been moved by trustee Ketchum and seconded by trustee Little. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On to the FY 2018 budget amendment, Vice President Johnson.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I asked Rick to fill in, and he gave a good presentation on the 1 mil, so I'll do this one for changes, sometimes planned, sometimes unplanned. And so there's in this amendment, the first one is just a change to the operating fund, the general fund. And as the description in the memo attached states, because of the results of the recapture redistribution, we actually end up with some additional funds that were coming to LCCC. And so we need to adjust the budget to show those revenues, and they'll be distributed throughout the budget as needed. The other one is in the auxiliary fund. If you recall, it seems like ages ago, but we actually, based on your authorization, utilized $75,000 out of the auxiliary, specifically the student housing fund balance, to pay for facilities planning. And so we now need to amend the budget to illustrate that we took those funds out of the fund balance and expensed them in this year. And so those are essentially the two major ones, and then one small budget authority one for facilities rental in here as well. And so the staff recommendation is that you approve the amendments to the FY 2018 annual budget as presented in here.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we are on to the employee email policy, 8.1 for our second reading, and we have a staff recommendation for us. Dr. Schaefer, do you have anything to add to this?
I know, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as in the past, you see policy changes in a two-step process. You receive these very simple policies, student email and employee email policy at your last meeting. They are back before you on second reading for your approval, and our recommendation is that you do approve adopting those.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of the adoption of employee email policy 8.0 and student email policy 8.5 as presented on the second reading.
Second that motion. And I think it was 8.1 here, I think.
Yes. It's been moved by trustee Ketchum and seconded by trustee Merrill. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On to Dr. Schaefer's contract. We've talked about this quite a bit. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of President Schaefer's contract.
I'll second that motion. With pleasure.
Moved by trustee Ketchum and seconded by trustee Merrill. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Can I vote twice? Aye.
No.
Unanimous.
It was,
Very much so.
thank you.
Glad to have that.
Oh,
Thank you.
Not quite as glad as my wife will be that I'm still employed, so. Thank you.
Okay, on to the final approval item of the night, and that is the naming of the LCCC food pantry. Dr. Schaefer?
Yeah, because she's here and she speaks so eloquently, I do want Associate Vice President Trimble to give you the brief presentation on this one.
Thanks. Mission endowed fund that would provide long-lasting support for the food pantry, allowing them to purchase items or equipment that might be needed throughout the duration of the program. We do hope to see the fund grow, but this is a wonderful opportunity for us to start that fund and to give them some funds to use in the foreseeable future. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Thanks, Lisa. And Mr. Chairman, you have my recommendation.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, before we get to additional items, we'll move past additional items. So I guess I do want to, we have a new guest that will be a permanent guest with us, but I'm going to have our student ex officio trustee, Derek, introduce our incoming ex officio trustee.
Very good.
To the board, Tyler Ricciardelli.
Welcome.
So, used to a good year of being a trustee.
Tyler, may we know a little bit about
Yeah, pretty much. We'll certainly keep you engaged here at the college. And then Tyler, just welcome to the board. And I think you can follow in the good footsteps of Derek and engage and, share your voice. You've got a seat at the table representing student body. Now is your opportunity to use that. And so we look forward to having you here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Derek.
Okay, on to next meeting, and July 11th is our next meeting. We will start at 5 that day. We'll have dinner afterwards. But it is, we only have a couple of agenda items for that day, so it will start right at 5 p.m. And hopefully that we will be out of there fairly quickly. So, yes, August 15th, I think we've all agreed that we'll start a board retreat at 5 that evening. So it's a typical board night, but that will be our retreat night on August 15th. Any more questions on that piece?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Are you developing an agenda for the board retreat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we've got a few items that we're doing that are on the agenda as of right now, but if you'd like to see something, let us know too.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, I don't have any more new business. Anybody else?
Can I bring up the Facebook Live concept?
Okay. So one of the, I was talking to Dr. Schaefer and Trustee Merrill, and one of the things that the City Council does is they stream their meetings on Facebook Live. And that's something I wanted to bring up with you guys to see if that's something you're at least open to. I think we probably have the capability to do that, but just another avenue for us to engage our constituents. So does anybody not love that idea?
How could we not? I mean, transparency is what we're all about,
Yeah.
right?
I love
just
the
have one
idea.
question, because you guys, you stream YouTube right now, right? Okay, so it's already on YouTube, so this would be same stream, basically?
Yep, just on Facebook.
How many viewers are?
Probably 1 million.
Right. I mean, what's the difference between?
60,000
I'm just trying to think. YouTube.
And then this is actually the reason why I brought it up was, I mean, I probably wouldn't go to YouTube to watch the city council meeting just because I tend to flip through Facebook quicker, and then when I land on the city council meeting, I tend to stay there for a little while at least. But I don't know what the engagement will be. It's something that we can look at down the road and see if it's.
Because the JAC just did it live this time, and they had a whopping 29 people.
But that's a JAC, that's not us.
Mr. Chairman?
Do you watch the JAC?
Mr. Chairman, can we ask, do we know what the engagement is on YouTube?
Yeah, I don't know.
Do we know what the engagement is on YouTube? Can,
Sorry, we're putting you on the spot right now.
That we could get the numbers.
Okay.
I'm sure we could do that.
I would like to
Yes.
know.
Right, I think one of the advantages of YouTube, I don't know if Facebook Live does it, the YouTube allows somebody to watch it later. And sometimes when your sound is bad on the live streaming, you guys fix it in the after streaming, which is kind of a nice feature. So I don't know if you have the same flexibility with Facebook Live.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Trustee Salazar, I believe Facebook Live archives those as well. If it's something you're interested in, I'd love to see the YouTube, but there are some issues. I don't know right now if Wingspan actually has access to the LCCC Facebook profile, or if it would be the Wingspan Facebook profile. Technology is probably the easy answer. It's just the structure and how it gets out there. Facebook Live has some challenges that are interesting, such as the ability to comment in real time, both to the good and the bad. So there are some things worth considering, but if it's something, it sounds like you're at least amenable to that, and maybe we can lean on our wonderful Wingspan folks and see if we can do a little research, just test the feasibility, or who knows, or find out maybe YouTube is already capturing an audience that we think is.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I went online here and checked it out. So quickly on YouTube, I found the March 15th meeting of 2017. There were 34 views.
Oh, that's more than expected.
It is more than expected.
You're looking 3 to 4 times.
Yeah. It's not close.
Yeah. Oh, no.
This is an example.
What did I say again?
Yeah, it's Gary Barker and.
All right, any other new business? That's all for me. Any other public comment for this evening? I hear none. Have a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
I want to bring up that it's still light outside.
It's not summer solstice yet.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Isn't summer solstice tomorrow?
What's that?
Summer solstice is tomorrow.
Is it? Wait, the longest day?
Yeah. August. Oh, is it?
Or no, you're right, summer.
Oh, is it?
Or no, you're right, summer. Tomorrow.
It's actually
It's tomorrow.
You're right. Yeah. Tomorrow's the longest
Is
day.
it tomorrow?
Tomorrow's the longest day of the year. You're right, you're right. It is.
I'm glad you could come.
Start going back.
Okay.
When it starts.
Well, I'm headed to Alaska.